Living Adventurously is brought to you in partnership with Komoot, the route planning and navigation app that helps you make the most of your outdoor adventures. Whether you're cycling, hiking, running, or bike packing, Komoot's easy-to-use technology will get you out the door and exploring more of the great outdoors. You can see where I've been exploring by checking out the highlights of my journey on Komoot. Just follow the link in the show notes. My name is Alistair Humphreys. I set out on a bicycle journey around Yorkshire to speak to interesting, ordinary people who, in very different ways, are making an effort to live adventurously. I wanted to talk about what they do, about the barriers they've faced along the way, and to seek their perspective on some of the big questions that all of us encounter in our lives. Welcome to Living Adventurously. I've written here, needs intro music. Okay, here we go. That'll do. Before I began my ride around Yorkshire, I put out a request on Twitter for interesting people I should try to meet and interview. One of the suggestions was Jamie, a sand artist and ice sculptor. Intrigued, I clicked through to the Sand in Your Eye Instagram page. They make fantastic, enormous sand drawings, a poignant World War I armistice project with Danny Boyle called Pages of the Sea, 1,000 turtles drawn on Blackpool Beach to commemorate World Ocean Day, a Land Rover 1 kilometre across, and there are sand carvings, ice carvings, light art. I just saw so much innovation. I loved the spirit of just having a crack at stuff he's never attempted before. So I was really intrigued to sit down on a grassy bank outside their workshop and have a chat with Jamie about, well, all sorts of things. His the creativity, the trying to make your career out of something you love, finding a specific niche, and above all, some absolute genius advice for ordering fish and chips. Right, I'm lying on a grassy bank with Jamie. How on earth do you make a living out of making sandcastles?
So we make lots of things now. So we make sandcastles. We make ice sculptures in the wintertime. We make big drawings on beaches. We make pumpkins, and then, so we have this season where it goes from maybe April to December, and then we have a low period from January to March, April, which is really good because you need that time to reset.
Yeah, do you like that period?
I love it. Yeah, because it's a period of, people, our job is like really quite dynamic in the things that we do, and the schedule is all over the place. Like we could get a commission in 2 weeks and then suddenly have to turn around this really big job. And that's kind of how it is at this time of the year. And so routine is very difficult to grab, and, don't undervalue routine, because it's really nice sometimes to be able to, do something on a Friday, every Friday, like take your kids swimming and stuff. And so in the winter time, I'm able to do those things, which is really nice. And it's just a really good time to reset and develop your business as well and yourself. So then back to how do you make a living? I don't know. I mean, I started maybe in 2004 professionally, I guess. And then I thought to myself, surely I can make a living out of this, not just as a sculptor, but like getting commissions and stuff. And so then, practically speaking, on a business level, I did everything at the beginning, I suppose, as you have to in any business. And I developed a website and just tried to engage with media and stuff, and things kind of snowballed from there. And then gradually the team builds, and you get really brilliant people coming in working with you. They're better at some things than you are, which is fantastic.
That's the key.
It is, yeah, and it allows me to do other things as well. And then gradually, people people like what you do and get in touch. And so we really, you know, again, in terms of business, we really blog everything, and we SEO everything, and we try to make the website good, and we try to make sales good. So when I first started, it was by myself, someone may come and email and say, you know, how much would a sand sculpture be, or could we have a sand sculpture wherever? And it could take like 2 weeks for me to get back to them, whereas now it's on the day. So it's you know, try to develop it like that. So those are kind of some of the main principles, maybe. But I suppose it's doing something that you enjoy, and if you've got a little bit of I don't know if talent's a good word for it, but if you've got a little bit of a flair for it, just a little bit, then if you've got the drive to actually learn it properly and do it, then you are just going to get better at anything, really. So, like, you know, I can see that my daughter, who's 4 years old, you know, she's not making incredible sculptures now, but I can see that potentially she has the potential to do that, because if she wants to, she could learn anything, because she just needs to practice, and that's what she does every day. She draws every day, not because we want her to, because she wants to. And if you really focus on the things that you would naturally just get up every day and do, then you're just going to become exceptional at it and successful at it. Whereas if you're trying to push yourself to do things that are a bit of a chore, that's a bit more difficult, I think.
Thank you. You're the studio?
Yeah.
Studio, not sure what the technical term is.
Yeah.
Is unlike anywhere I've been before. I walked in and there's big sand sculptures and all sorts of arty stuff, and then on the walls these photographs of the installations you've done. Some are sort of stenciled pieces on the beaches, some ice things. It's really, really unusual and varied artwork you're doing. In my head, again, that I still can't. I love how niche it is.
Yes.
And one of the things I'm really interested in life is the idea of, if you can find your niche, whatever it is, and become the best at it. If anyone else cares, if anyone else cares, then there's potential of making a job out of it.
There is,
here, seeing a professional sandcastle builder, I don't know if that's a great insult. I've met you about 10 minutes, and I'm already ripping into your work. I'm meeting a professional sandcastle builder, and you're making a living out of it. I think that's absolutely brilliant. What was it that set you off down the niche of thinking there is actually an interest in sand sculpture that's worth diving into?
Well, I mean, when the way it started is I just said hello to somebody. So I was on holiday in Norway, and I'd actually broken my collarbone mountain biking, and so usually I would be walking across in the mountains or something, is what I wanted to do. But in the end, I just ended up going from city to city, and I was a bit bored. And anyway, there's this chap, and he's laying in some dirt, and I was like, what's he doing? And I came back, and actually wasn't laying in dirt, it was sand, and he was making a sculpture, and it was promotions for Twinings tea or something. And I said, hello, and he said, hey. That's what they say, no, I hate. But it was actually English, so naturally we just started chatting. And then I had a briefcase I was painting and stuff at the time. And I was telling him about that. And he says, oh, what do you think of this sculpture that I'm making? And he was making the Queen, I think, the English Queen. And he says, oh, maybe you could do this, that. And he seemed to value the advice. And he says, look, if you want to have a go, have a go. So I says, yeah, all right, okay. So I had a go, and he seemed to think I had a flair for it. Now, that's difficult when you first do anything to know that, because you've got nothing to qualify it against. But I know when I now train people, when someone's got a flair for something, very, very quickly.
So there is talent is important to a degree. To
a degree, yeah. But as I say though, if you find a little bit of a talent, but then you're applied to it, if you're passionate about it, then I think that's even more worthwhile. I mean, so now we're not just looking for, if I'm trying to find sculpts and stuff, you're not just looking for someone who's got a really strong talent. You're looking for someone who's really enthusiastic. And I don't mean that in a flowery way. Like, if someone's, like I say, willing to spend hours and hours and hours just practicing and doing something, they're just going to become good at it. So I said hello to this chap, and he said, oh, you've got a flair for this. If you want to come to Norway, then do, because I've got a studio. So I went to Norway for 2 weeks, and it was like a room full of sand, and in a factory it was, and a bed. And I just spent 2 weeks there sculpting, basically. And then years later, he asked me to be an assistant for a job in England. And it all just really spiraled from there. And a lot of sand sculptors are ice sculptors. So it just went into that as well. And then, the niche thing. It's like, in terms of niche, I was making things, and sand sculpture wasn't very big in England at the time, but it was big in Europe. And I was like, I can make a living out of this, surely. But how are people going to find out about it? Because at first I sent proposals to people and stuff, but it doesn't really carry, I don't think. So I was like, well, surely if people know about it, they will find me. And that's where the website came in. And that's where all the blog stuff comes as well.
So you saw the importance early on of getting people to know about what you were doing.
Totally, yeah. And it's so important. And so a lot of our stuff is that if people want it, they can find it. And then there's other things, like in terms of if you feel that there's something where there is something's trending and you think, okay, there's a market there, then it's to go on that as well. So, because if you're the only person doing it, then you're really onto a winner. So with ice carving, there's many companies. There's lots of competition there. But with pumpkins, America, it's totally trending. That Halloween's becoming more and more popular. So we, some years ago now, thought, okay, let's start making pumpkins. So we're one of the leading suppliers of carved pumpkins in England. So October's mad busy. And then the same with sand drawings. That it was like, okay, there's these sand drawings and no one's really doing this. And so developed drawing on beaches. These big images and sometimes anamorphic images as well.
What's that?
So an anamorphic image is where, a graphic image is where you could draw. Oh, just my alarm. Just a second. So a graphic image is where you draw a face and it can only be seen from a drone from the sky, let's say. An anamorphic image is where you stretch it so that somebody on the ground can see it.
Like on the sports TV
exactly
things.
like rugby, when they're doing an advertisement thing. So we do that on beaches, and so we developed it that we appear to be the only company that can do that kind of thing, and we're just we're doing all right. So niche, if you can, is really good.
Do you remember the first time you charged someone money for making a sandcastle?
Yeah. So I made, it was in Warrington, I think it was in Warrington, we made a mermaid, I think. And I didn't sleep at night. And that's the other thing, is that when you first do these things, our stuff is really event-based. And I think the anxiety is in the unknown. So, you're planning and planning and planning, and then... But there's so many variables, it's hard to quantify, to compute them all, so it's really stressful. And then there's the adrenaline, so I remember not sleeping at all that night. And then the event came around, and when the event was going, it was like, well, I know this, I know the sand, it's here now.
I'm good at this.
The sand, I think the stress for us when we're doing events is more when the material arrives, is it correct? Because we don't use the same sand all the time. Or on a beach, are the beach conditions going to be okay? But once we've got the material, then it's a lot easier.
That first time when someone phoned you up and said, why don't you come to Warrington and build a sculpture, and you in your head just have to think of a number of cash and say, this will cost you this amount of money. How did you feel? And did you feel like, I'm making this, it's worth this? Or did you just feel, this is ridiculous, I'm charging him for this? And
no, I don't know.
Did you feel all right doing that?
I tried to work it out. How long it would take, and materials and stuff like that, and then they went for it, and then we made the sculpture. And I mean, back to stress is that afterwards I remember thinking, I don't think I could continue doing this many because this is so stressful. But then actually, as the projects progressed and we did more and more, you find that you cope with it, and you develop a self-confidence, and things are working, and always there will be always something that doesn't go quite to plan, but you will often deal with it as well. And then in terms of like your business models and stuff, is that I think maybe even 5 years in, I think I was like, I appear to be doing these reasonably large projects, but I appear to, and then I pay everybody. There's no money left. It's like, what's going on? And so one big thing to think about if you are doing anything like this is overheads. Work out what your running overheads are, because you have to charge your clients not only for the job itself, but for the overheads in the running the business. And if you don't, that basically is your wage. That disappears.
And you've also had to become an expert not only in making art, but in running all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And have you found that aspect of running a small, medium business?
Running a business is difficult. I would say maybe only 25%, 30% of what we do is actually practically making something. A lot of it is event planning, and as you say, running a business. And yeah, I mean, I did a degree in environmental protection, and in that it's quite holistic. There's like management and health and safety and stuff. And actually, it's absolutely fantastic that. And it's really helped informed working in the natural environment where we often are. Whereas a lot of people who study art, they learn about making stuff, but then when it comes to running a business, they're a bit of a loss.
Useless, yeah.
So I really value that education, that small amount of knowledge that I got at uni, but really say to anyone, if you can get it, because it really, really helps. Knowing how to price something is really quite difficult in some ways, but you need to know it. You can't. Again, you don't want to just pick a number out of the air. You got to think, okay, how's this working, and how can I actually run a business here? And then in terms as the business grows, I've no massive training. It's kind of you just muddling along, and a lot of it's about people. So it's you're working in a team, and that's one of the most important things, I think.
So you're well, perhaps you're not. Are you both a solitary artistic person?
Yeah.
And also, do you enjoy the team side of things as well?
Yeah.
Do you wear both hats?
Both.
You do?
Definitely, yeah.
Do you enjoy both hats?
Yeah. So like if you got to remember that when I first started, maybe for years I was working by myself from a spare room or from a bedroom or whatever, and then people would start to work part-time I'd work with, and now we've got a team working full-time all the time. But when you lead a team, you're in constant distraction, because really you want to be able to focus. And I think the thing with maybe with an artist as well is that you settle into a certain mindset where you're able to focus with great detail on certain things to make something. And if you're constantly distracted, it really interrupts that.
How do you deal with that?
I don't know. I'm okay. I'm pretty good, I hope, at being able to flick in and out and being distracted and being able to chat with people and
idiots turning up to demand a cup of tea and ask you about sandcastles when you've got a lot to do.
Yeah. But so I hope that's okay. But I love it when it's just me sometimes. I may just, if it's with your own business, if we get seriously busy, and this is with any business director or owner or whatever, if someone has to pick up the slack, it's often me or my wife or who's directs as well. But yeah, so you may find yourself working a weekend by yourself, but that can be really nice as well sometimes. So I do really value my own time, but then to be fair, the stuff that we do now is only achievable in a team. And so that's amazing to have that.
Are you good at saying no?
No to what?
So, for example, when I started working for myself as a writer and doing talks and selling some photos and things, I just felt I've got to say yes to absolutely everything. I was manic for many, many years about I've got to say yes to this. And even if someone says, "Oh, will you come to speak to the WI in Inverness?" I think, well, I might, because you never know, I might meet that person who'll sign me a book deal. But at some point, in order to get your head in a space whereby you can actually do some good work, you need to say no.
Yeah, I'm probably
and it's hard to do.
I'm probably okay at saying no, I think. Yeah. Because as you say, there's only so many things you can do. When I was a little boy, I always say I had a nervous breakdown at 11 or 9 years old. I'm kind of talking in jest here, but I remember being at home and my mum came in the bedroom and I was under my covers crying my eyes out, and my mum was like, "Jamie, what's wrong with you? What's up?" And I says, "Well, I'm at school. I'm in the lead in the school play." This is ahead of the school year this year. I'm doing this and that. Then now they want me to be in a basketball team. I can't play basketball. I'm kind of making that up. I'm sure. Well, maybe not. And my mum was like, and I was in the orchestra, playing the trumpet or the cornet. My mum was like, Jamie, you can't do everything. There's only so many things you can do in life, and therefore you need to think about what's really most important to you and just do those things. And I was like, yeah, okay. And so that really young age is kind of stuck with me till now. Even it's like you've got to really focus on what it is that you really want to do, and try and do those things. In a business, it's difficult in that we have to generate income and revenue and stuff. But yeah, certainly I can prioritize. Yeah.
That's a good thing to be able to do. What are some of the most impressive mistakes you've made in the last 10, 15 years?
Wow.
And I'm asking that not out of Schadenfreude, but as what you've learned from that.
Well, the first thing is that we make mistakes all the time. And I think that's really important in terms of creativity and stuff, is that you've got to allow yourself to make mistakes. Because if you don't, and you've got to allow your team as well to make mistakes, because if you have this culture of not making mistakes, then no one will step out and actually take a leap or just try even, because they're too concerned about being berated. And so I'm really like, people when they meet me probably think I'm a fumbling idiot, because I'm always blurting out stuff and I'm always getting things wrong. But I'm a little bit, I'm not overly concerned about that. I don't take it too personally. But I think the blundering idiot thing also allows me to do things that other people wouldn't necessarily do. I'll give stuff a go. Yeah. So when someone rings up saying, could you make a picture of a Land Rover on a beach that's 1 kilometre long? I'm just like, well, I don't know how to do that right now, but I think we can do it. And so I think allowing yourself the room to be able to make mistakes, not being too hard on yourself, is so important in life. And so what mistakes have I made? I don't know. It's hard to put my finger on some. If my wife was here, she'd have a list.
She'd just get out her scroll.
Yeah, she'd bring out a book.
Okay.
But I was talking about finance earlier on. That whole thing of, for a couple of years, I remember doing my accounts and thinking, where's the money going? I'm not actually paying myself, and I wasn't calculating overheads correctly. So things like your phone and what have you, and then the other thing is that in business as well is that when you're charging, people ask for a day rate and stuff, and it's like, well, actually, this day's got to pay for all the other days as well. It's like, most of the time we're planning and stuff, you're not necessarily getting paid for that day. So I think originally when we were pricing and stuff, you'd think, oh, you got your day rate and your materials, but it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
And so that if you are an artist or you're in any job, your rate for your wage on those, we call them event days, needs to pay your other days as well. Because if it doesn't, you'll become in financial scupper pretty quick.
And what do you say when you someone phones you up and says, can you do a Land Rover on the beach, really big Land Rover, and you say, yep, it'll cost £5 million.
Yeah.
And they go, that's a ridiculous amount of money. How dare you charge that? You're a blah blah blah. How do you justify the money you charge in your head?
So we'll come to a mistake here actually. Yeah, and it's in it roundabouts in the question there. So a mistake that I made was we did a job, and I won't kind of specify exactly what it was, but it was basically a world first. Yeah, and we were the only company in the world that could do it. And it was a world record as well. And we were just like, and it came to pricing this thing. It was working with 2 really big companies. And we really wanted to do it because it was like, for our reputation, etc. And it came to pricing and stuff, and I got a price. And then the producer of this event was like, oh, it's quite expensive. So we kind of brought it down, and essentially we did okay. It was okay. Anyway, I went to have some business advice, and I paid £400 for it, a day's mentoring, which was a ton of money at the time. And I was like, wow, is this really worth it? But it was, because this lady was brilliant. She said, in your business, you've got some products where you've got competition, like ice sculpture, and you've basically got to price according to your competitors, essentially.
Market rate.
Yeah, market rate, yeah. It says, but you've got other products where you've developed them because they're niche, like sand drawing at the time. And you've got this thing where you had this job with this company, these two companies, and you were the only company in the world that could do it. And you knew they wanted to do it. And yet you basically charged them cost for it, essentially, which was a lot. It was a bit of a whack, but it could have been a lot more. And so what she told me about was economic worth. And you work out how much it's worth, what the cost of the project is, first of all. And then you've kind of got to go, well, how much do I actually think this is worth to them?
To them, yeah.
Yeah. Not to us. And then you do the pick the number out of the sky thing, because you don't really know. And then it becomes a bit of a bartering thing of, we want to charge you, £2 million, let's say. Well, that'd be amazing. And then they go, that's too much. And then you go, okay, I'll just charge you $1 million then, or whatever it is. And then actually it could have cost £10, But it doesn't matter. It's if you're in hold of the cards, you're the only ones that can provide it. Then that's economic worth. And so that's where you're developing, if you can, products that only where your streets ahead, basically. And if you can find something that is going to be a first, then you're really onto good ground. The example I always use when I try and explain this to people is Usain Bolt, 2012 Olympics. He's going to probably win the 100-meter race. Someone could say, "Oh, I was saying, what's your day rate? This is Richard Branson, Virgin, or whatever. I want you to do an advert for me. £150, is that all right?" And and then his agent or whoever is saying, I'm sure he knows his worth, is, no, mate, it's 2012 Olympics. I'm going to charge you millions for that. So even though you have to turn up for one day and do a quick film shoot, which, for a tradesman may be okay, but for him, because his economic worth at that time in history is worth millions, and that's what he's going to charge. So the mistake I made was I didn't do that. I charged £150 kind of thing.
Yeah.
I charged what it costs, whereas now we're much more aware of it's project to project. What is the worth of what we're doing here? And then that really helps, because that the profit you will get on that as a business is really helpful.
Thank you. That's a really good answer. One of the things I'm really interested in talking to all these people about is the idea that I think a lot of people in life, or probably all of us actually, at some point in our life we're here and we'd really love to be there.
Yeah.
We might not know where there is, but let's assume we do. Well, actually, no, we want to be not here, basically.
Yeah,
we want to change. So, but we're here, but we want to be there. It sounds obvious, but it's so hard for us to do. Yeah. And it's sometimes practical barriers. It's usually, though, inside our head, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I wonder what were you doing before you met that sand sculpture guy? Did you have a proper job? Have you ever had a proper job, young
man? I worked
in
in a fish and chip shop.
Did you?
Yeah, I love it. Did you? In Bournemouth,
What job? What were you doing in there?
I was on the takeaway.
Did you do the frying?
No, I wasn't that good.
Oh, you weren't.
I wasn't entrusted to do frying.
Okay.
I was the jovial Yorkshireman in Bournemouth when I was at university.
Okay.
On the desks, shoveling chips and fish and stuff.
Nice.
But I loved working there.
They never put on enough vinegar.
Well,
feedback for you. If this all falls down, you end up back at Hebden Bridge.
Well,
chippy.
you see, I'm a bit of a vinegar. Vinegar. I love vinegar on fish and chips, but if you're taking away, my advice to anybody is don't put vinegar on it. If you're taking it home, put salt on it. Don't put vinegar. The reason being is that if you put vinegar on it, it sweats, and you end up having a really mushy fish when it gets home. All the batters. The idea of frying something is it becomes crispy, and so you get it home and it's all mushy. Now that might be some people's taste, but it's not to mine. And but if you put salt on it, which you're going to do anyway, more than likely, that actually helps with the vapor. Have some vinegar at home. Put your vinegar on at home.
Wow, wise words. Okay, thank you. I was not expecting that.
So the here and there thing.
Yeah.
So I loved working in a fish and chip shop.
What were you doing when you met that Norwegian guy? You were injured.
Yeah, so I was at university.
Oh, still a student?
Yeah.
Were you planning to get a proper job?
Yeah, so I worked as an outdoor pursuits instructor. So I finished university, environmental protection, and I went to the Isle of Wight and did outdoor pursuits and teaching, or trying to teach environmental kind of outdoor studies to kids and stuff. So I did that for a few years, actually. And then in between, I met this guy. I'd met the guy in Norway and said hello in 1998, so some years before. And then he called me up whilst I was working at this place, saying, could I assist him for a summer? So I did. And then the following year, he introduced me to these big festivals in Europe. He basically vouched for me. And when I got there, this guy showed me this huge pile of sand and said, "Hey man, is this okay?" And I was just like, "Okay." And I'd only done. He says, "How long have you been sculpting, man?" And I was like, so I kind of told a bit of a fib in that I'd probably been sculpting for 14 days if I totted them up, but it was like 5 years before when I actually met this guy. So I said 5 years, and he was like, "Okay, there you go." So it was one of those moments. Should I just go home and just save my face? And I thought, well, actually, I've got nothing to lose. And this is the make the mistake thing. It could have been a really humiliating exercise, but I thought, I'm going to give this a go. So I basically set to with my shovel and trowels and shoveled this. I made this monster, which is a great thing to make because it doesn't actually need to look like
realistic.
Anything. Exactly. And then over those, I stayed there for maybe 5-6 weeks sculpting and then gradually improved. So I went to this other event straight after that, where they were wanting more advanced things, but I'd kind of trained myself a little bit. So it was one of those things that's very fortuitous, and again, allowing yourself just to have a go. Because one of the things that it sounds funny, we had a sports day the other day. My daughter had sports day, and the parents, of course, do the race and stuff. And I came middle ground and stuff like that. And someone asked me later on, said, "Oh, how'd you do? And I said, I came middle ground." And she went, "Oh." And I says, you don't have to win to be a winner. Because my thing is, you don't have to win it. You have to take part. You have to do it. You have to try. Because a lot of the time people fail because they don't try in the first place. And so this thing of me being abroad sculpting was, I was just trying. And it was a very organic adventure in life. I wasn't trying to get to there, if you like. It was an opportunity, and then gradually more opportunities arose, and I'd kind of just jumped on it. And so in those early years, the first 2 years, something of actually being a professional sculptor, my experiences in life and my skills in sculpting were accelerated rapidly. It was a wonderful time, actually. And then, as you become better at anything, I suppose your learning curve reduces in some ways. It plateaus a bit more. But yeah, so here and there, I then thought, well, one day I would like a family, and I can see my colleagues now, sculptors, but they travel the world and stuff, which is really good. But one day, I don't want to be doing that. I'll probably want to settle down and stuff. So that's when I developed Sand in Your Eye and thought I want to have a business that is national based, regionally based as well. So that if I happen to meet a lovely lady and have a family and stuff, that it's conducive to it. And so that's kind of where that was. So I was planning there then. And then we're in a space now where, you're there always changes. It changes, you achieve something and then you kind of have other ambitions. Ambitions are always fluid, aren't they, I suppose? And so there is that occasionally we get to do really what I think are lovely, beautiful, small, social pieces of art that have a social meaning, if you like. But those are quite difficult to fund and what have you, but it's a direction which we'd like to go into more. Whereas the work that we've got, and we're really lucky, is more mainly commercially based, which is still so good to do in it, and it allows us to be working artists, I suppose. But therefore, me now is trying to open up new opportunities where we're able to do more artistic works. So as I said, we did the Fallen 9000 in 2013, where we made 9,000 silhouettes on a beach in Arromanches, and it was to show visually what 9,000 people looks like, and then that was the number of people that died in a day, essentially. So we drew those silhouettes in a day, and then they were washed away, and that was produced with a colleague of mine, Andy Moss. And then a couple of years ago, we did something called Please Look After Me, wanting to raise awareness of homelessness. And so we made ice sculptures across the country, and we want to develop this actually, but of children actually the form, and then we placed them in notable locations like Westminster, etc., and all over the country, to bring awareness of homelessness.
And then left them to melt.
And left them, yeah. So the idea is, you get this vulnerable child form, and that was logistics as well, because it's easy to move because it's lighter, but it's invisible. And so you stick a light in it and everyone can see it and they're really impressed. But then actually when you turn the light off, nobody notices them. They just walk past them. And then there's that thing with ice. It's a fragile medium. And it was to just bring that, and because it really troubles me. Homelessness is an awful thing. It's like people at the end of the day would be very functional in society if they just had a bit more support. And a lot of people, I feel, don't realise. I find it hard to relate. It's like, well, why is that person homeless? They must be lazy. And it's like, well, that's not necessarily the case at all. It's like, if I had a problem, I have quite a good family network. I'd go home, basically.
Someone would help you.
Someone would help me.
Yeah.
Whereas if I didn't have that and something happened, like it was really traumatic in life, and I didn't have somewhere to fall back, then you're in trouble. And then very quickly, that's when you become homeless. So a lot of people become homeless because they don't have a network, or they just need a bit of support, basically.
Yeah. So when you began all of this, did you have any idea that it would lead to doing some social enterprise projects like this, or were you just trying to make monsters and a bit of cash?
I think in the beginning I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just going from one. I was having fun, following my nose. Yeah, I have this thing called maybe I don't know. I don't go on about it too much, but anymore. But a path to fulfillment. If you want to do a particular, you may not know what it is you want to do, but I would always advise somebody to follow your nose as much as you can. So if you enjoy something, do it, because one, you'll become better at it, and then other thing is that opportunities will arise that you don't even know exist. So when I said hello to that guy, a lot of people would, when he said, "Oh, do you want to have a go?" a lot of people would said no. And then when it came to the, if you want to, you can come to my studio. A lot of people would have gone, "Oh, it's okay. Yeah, of course I will," and then not got in touch. So there's that whole thing of taking opportunities. And then the path to fulfillment, these doors open that suddenly then I'm meeting ice sculptors. And I'm just like, that'd be incredible to do ice sculpture. Can I have a go? Like, yeah, of course you can. So I go to Finland and do some ice sculpting, enter a competition with a really cool artist, actually. But then we won it. And so after a week of ice carving, I was an international champion. And so then I could basically blag my way into that kind of field. And so these opportunities just arise, and then someone says, could you do a sand drawing? I don't know what sand drawing is. So I look at it and try and work it out. Like, yeah, we can give it a go. And so these opportunities open it's the path of something you enjoy. And it's easy to do that when you're younger, I think. Because when I was younger, I had no money to do things, but I did have time. So I was able to commit time to pondering and experimenting and having a go at stuff. Whereas these days, I've probably got more finance, but I have very, very little time to really do a lot of stuff like just going for a swim. It's quite difficult
to schedule it in.
Yeah.
Do things while you're young man is the advice.
Because young guys and girls, I've got no cash to this and this, but it's like, no, just do your best, experience things, because actually those experiences will be the foundations for your life later on.
I think that's a perfect point to end on. Thank you so much, Jamie.
Right.
I've really been fascinated by your work. It's brilliant.
Cool, thank you very much.
Thank you for squeezing me into your busy day.
It's all right. Don't worry. But thank you for coming as well.
Thanks very much. Cheers. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Living Adventurously. There's show notes from every episode on my website, alistairhumphreys.com/podcast. If you have enjoyed it, please take a screenshot of your phone and pop it up on social media, or leave a review with your podcast provider. It makes a massive difference. Thank you very much. I teamed up with Komoot to make this podcast happen. In case you missed it, Komoot is an outdoor planning and navigation app that helps you explore more of the great outdoors. One of the many ways Komoot helps you have better adventures is through their inspiring collections. Are you exploring a new area and not sure where to begin? Type in where you want to go, and local collections will suggest a number of cycling or hiking tours based on the most scenic routes. It's a great way to get started exploring in a new place, particularly if you don't know where to begin. Wherever you find yourself, your very own outdoor experiences are waiting for you. Go explore more with Komoot. Head to komoot.com/chi and use the voucher code ADVENTUROUS to claim your free region bundle.